like to welcome everybody this morning to Eggs and Issues. This morning's sponsor is PTCI, and I'd like to thank them for breakfast. They come out and they film, so if you are interested in watching a replay, they'll have that up and ready probably in a week. I don't know how long it takes. A week. Yeah, they're nodding at me. So you can go back for the replay. We also I'd like to recognize our Leadership Guyman class. They're here with us today, so wave if you're in Leadership Guyman. We also have some ambassadors here with us. I see a couple of orange coats. So if you are new to this, I'll kind of give you a rundown. We'll have a couple of presentations. We have our representative and senator, and we also have Senator Inhofe's field rep, Brian Sproul, with us here today. So he'll give a short little update as well. So you'll get both local and national updates. So if you have anything that you'd like to ask, if you'll wait till the end, I'll come around with the microphone, and you need to tell me who you are, and then ask your question, but ask it into this because TV land can't hear your question unless you're speaking into the microphone. So, draw of the straw, kind of so to speak. We're going to get started with our representative. So, let's get going.
Okay, good to see everybody. Kenton Pitskowski, House District 61. Before we get on legislative stuff, let's talk about basketball just a minute. Anybody know Boise City Wildcats were in the state tournament? They won their game yesterday, and we got it. And hats off to Boise City. We got out of session quick enough to go to their ball game yesterday, and we watched them beat Burlington 43-37. So they play. It'd be nice if we could have been there today. They play at 9 o'clock this morning. Now, Casey, I don't think you can make that, even if you left now. So they play, I believe it's Hammond. They do play Hammond, so congratulations to them. On the legislative update, we just finished our 4th week. A lot of the policy bills are all out of committee. We've heard quite a few of them on the floor. The one you've probably heard about the most was the constitutional carry bill. It just went through, and it went, I think we did it the week before, and it went to the Senate, and the Senate voted yes on it. And I mean, within just a few hours, the governor came right on over to the Capitol. That Senate bill was voted up, and it was just a little bit. And they did a signing on it in the Blue Room. So constitutional carry is state law. That's one I did vote for. In the House, it passed like 70-30. It was something I believe in. I do believe in the Constitution. I do believe in permits. I went ahead and took the permit class. It's a good thing. That 8-hour class is it's a good thing. So there were arguments on both sides, but anyway. Probably was irrelevant for our area. I told folks a lot of the debate centered around, they called it, they didn't want Oklahoma to be the Wild Wild West. And I kind of went, we kind of already are the Wild Wild West out here. There's probably more guns per capita out here than anywhere in the state. And we simply just don't have any problems. So I felt pretty confident that constitutional carry would be fine. The hype will all go away. I don't think there'll ever be any increase in any gun violence or anything like that. Everything will settle in. So we are a constitutional carry state now. Next thing I want to talk about is I probably just briefly touched on the diversity of the House. Last time I maybe just briefly just said it's a very diverse body. I thought it looked positive. Well, I've got to know a lot of these fellas a lot better. You know, after 4 weeks in the trenches with them, you get to find about, you know, a lot of their personal life. Let me just read off what we've really got, and this is what is really makes our constitutional way of life. I mean, our representative, the way we do things. Here's what we got in the House of Representatives. We got an optometrist, a nurse practitioner, we've got a pharmacist, we've got a banker, and as I go through here, think about downtown. I mean, just about any little small town, this is the way it looks. I got a guy that does title and abstracts. I got a guy that owns a Daylight Donut shop. I got teachers. I got administrators. I got a psychologist. I've got law enforcement. I've got farm and ranch. And I'm not just making these up. These are guys that are in the House of Representatives. I've got a tire shop owner. I got a preacher. I got a lawyer. There's a firefighter in there. I got a wrestling coach. He's about my size. He's one of my best friends. My next door neighbor at my apartment is a retired, what do you call it? Air traffic controller. And he needs to be in the radio business. He's got the most wonderful, deepest voice you'd ever hear. When he makes a comment on the House floor, I mean, everybody listens. So this is kind of what it looks like, and that's the way our representative government is supposed to look. I'm excited about that. Next thing I might want to just mention just briefly, and I don't want to get in the weeds on this, and Casey hasn't seen it yet, but this will be the marijuana bill. This is the skinny version. I believe it's 77 pages, and I believe we heard it the day of the ball game. I think we heard it Thursday. It passed 93-5. I was a yes vote on this. And I'll leave this if anybody wants it, if you want to make copies and pass it around. I'm going to call it a framework bill. It's probably not got everything in it you want. And I know there's a large portion of us in here probably was not for medical marijuana. This is a framework to keep bad things from happening. We don't want this drug to be treated recreationally. So I think this is a good framework for that. Kind of the downside to this, as they were debating that, and I made a few notes here, it's going to cost the state $9 million to get this thing implemented. Now, it's going to be taxed heavily, and we'll probably get that $9 million back. I don't know how quick. I wasn't in the A and B meetings on that, the financial decisions on that. It's called the Oklahoma Marijuana Patient Protection Act. It's all about protecting the people in the state of Oklahoma with the medical marijuana. It's all about the safety. And just on that note, this is not Tylenol, Randy. And we don't want it to be used as Tylenol. And one of the things, as I was reading it, I don't know if I can find it here, but they're going to fee you to death. One of these big ones is a business license. If you want to sell it, Leon, get your checkbook out. It's $2,500. All of these people will have to have OSBI background check, and a lot of these requirements were at the request of those that want to sell it. They wanted it safe. They wanted it tightened down. They don't want, the people that are really wanting to do this for a business, they want it, they did want it regulated, and they want it tightened down. So this will probably be something we'll have to, we'll be addressing, Casey, probably all through our political careers at the state capitol. It'll have to be tweaked. This is the starter bill, and like I say, this is what it looks like, 77 pages. It began as 300, so we're down to that. This is what you're going to see probably in a week or two, so you can have it if you want it.
Thank you for cutting it down for me.
I just barely got to read it like one time. I do have a colleague that's an attorney. He pretty much got through it, and I said, the thing I want to see the most, and I can't find it, is spot check. I want the ability to go into this place and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And he told me later he found it. It's in here. So I didn't find it. So it's in the weeds here somewhere. It's kind of like our farm programs. You get drawn, you get spot checked, they look and see how you're implementing the program. That's very important to me. Another thing, Mr. Sproul, I think you represent Mr. Inhofe, don't you? Senator Inhofe. We've got another deal that come out of, I'm on the Transportation Committee, and we had an interesting bill come through transportation that I'm very much in favor of. I want to be a co-author of this. And they said it was Inhofe's idea of the third-party CDL licensing. So the closest place to do the driving test for a CDL license, to my knowledge, is Woodward. We can't do that here. Is that correct? Now we can do the written test here, but we can't do the driving test at Woodward. And there have been lots of problems. It's very hard to get a CDL test at Woodward. Some of my guys I drink coffee with, there's a couple of them young guys wanted to get a CDL, and it's a minimum of 3 trips to Woodward, and then they go to Enid. If they just keep failing them at Woodward, and then they drive all the way over to Enid. So now we have an opportunity for third-party CDL testing. They gave me some numbers here. The Department of Public Safety's kind of fought this for about 10 years, and Senator Inhofe's kind of taken the lead on this. There's 40 states in the nation already have a third-party. So we have someone in the private sector, and I'm hoping somebody in Texas County would like to be that. If we get this done, we get the Senate to okay it, and the governor will sign it. And I think it's a measure that could move forward. I hope somebody in this area, for sure, Texas or Beaver County, will take this third-party CDL. We have a lot of people need that CDL license for their oil field stuff. It's just on and on, and it's costing. They gave a number up. It takes 15 days to get a CDL average. 15 days to get a CDL license times your average salary. They think we're losing $5 million just in the number. They claim we've got 2,700 unfilled CDL jobs in the state right now. So we have a huge need for third-party CDL testing to get some of these guys with CDL licenses. Finally, I'll close on hemp. I got a good article on hemp here if somebody'd like to have it. We're still we don't have anything in legislation on hemp right now on the state level. It's still hung up on the federal level. They're that's hard to say, promulgating rules on hemp right now. They're still, Department of Agriculture will get them down to us, and we're supposed to be able to have hemp as a commodity, a titled commodity, soon. So when that happens, I'm guessing the state will probably have to do something, run something through the state to get our farmers ready to grow some industrial hemp. That may be the next agriculture thing that we see hit our area, is some agriculture hemp. So, did you want people to ask me questions now or at the end? Okay. Okay. I'll grab me a bite to eat and I'll let Casey talk then.
Brian, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll go then real quick. For those that don't know me, I know several of you in here, but I'm Ryan Sproul. I work for Senator Jim Inhofe as a field rep. Try to get to Guyman as much as I can. I have to say I'm pretty new to the senator staff, and I always get the question, are you from D.C.? No. Are you from Tulsa or Oklahoma City? And I say, no, I'm from Fairview, Oklahoma, just down the road. Family's been there, like a lot of you guys, for a long time. We've been there 126 years. So Casey's my senator. We're about as far south and east in this district as you can get, but he is my senator. And these two guys are doing a good job for you up here. I appreciate the chance to work with them if there's things we can be helpful with on a federal level. just to talk a little bit about something that Representative Piskowski mentioned on the CDL bill. Senator Inhofe's very much in favor of making that easier for our CDL drivers as we're out and about in the state talking to businesses and industry. CDL drivers, just a lack of people to fill those seats is a huge issue. So that'll be something we'll definitely look at. And to go along with that, the Senator co-sponsored some legislation that was just introduced here recently to right now, if you have a CDL and if you're 18, you can only drive in the state of Oklahoma, the way I understand it. If you want to go out of state, you have to be 21. Well, in Texas County, we could be out of state pretty quick, right? So it would be something that would really be a benefit to our panhandle counties if we can take that age limit down to 18 and let those guys drive across state lines. So we'll see where that goes. It's introduced. I think it'll gain some traction, and it would pair nicely to what the representative was saying. Just real quick, and I'll try to be brief because I'm sure we're here to hear from our state guys, but I do appreciate the chance just to kind of tell you a few things on the national level. If you guys will remember, just like the state Senate, U.S. Senate is charged with confirmation hearings. We just had a new Attorney General confirmed Valentine's Day. And then just yesterday, we got a new EPA administrator. And I mentioned the EPA administrator. His name's Andrew Wheeler. He actually worked for the senator when the senator was chair of the Environment and Public Works Committee for 6 years. And then before that was on his personal staff. So senators worked with Andrew for 14 years or so, and very confident that he'll do a good job of taking care of the environment like we all want to do, but not be burdensome on our regulations and not over-regulate us, especially in the ag industry or manufacturing. So those are two big confirmations that we've seen here recently. The other thing to keep in mind, and the senator's very focused on, he's chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee. So basically with that committee, he controls, or that committee controls, the funding for our military bases and just military in general. And what we're looking at, he's done several hearings, hearing some horror stories, if you will, I guess, of living conditions for our service men and women on bases. That's unacceptable to him. So we want to really work on making sure, like at Tinker or Vance or the bases across the country, that those folks that are fighting for us have livable living conditions. So that's something he's really been looking at the last few weeks. We're going to have some more hearings on that. And I say that too because I'm sure you guys have all seen the news. Border security is very important to the senator. It's very important to the president, and President Trump with his national emergency declaration. Part of those funds that he's looking at, they call them MILCON funds, and that's government term for military construction. Senator's very much in support of the president securing the border, like I said, but he's a little hesitant to use those funds that we're trying to improve living conditions for our servicemen and women. He brought the KC-46. It's a fuel tanker to Altus and Tinker. So we're trying to keep those funds designed for what they're for, instead of using those maybe to work on border security. So we're really watching that. The last thing I'll mention, as chairman of that Senate Armed Services Committee, focused on passing, they call it the National Defense Authorization Act, and that basically funds the military. We went through a period of 8 years, 10 years of really defunding the military. I wrote down here, in 2010, our national defense budget was $794 billion. In 2015, it was $586. So a pretty drastic cut to our military, and we've built that back up over the last couple of years. Last year, it was $716 billion, and we're looking at probably $740, $750, somewhere in there. Main thing on that, it's a lot to it. We could talk a long time, but to sum it up in 2 words, it's modernization and readiness. Just making sure that we have the things in place to protect us. Not everybody likes us out in the world. I think we all know that. So we just want to make sure we're ready to be able to defend ourselves. China and Russia are kind of a growing threat every day. Senator's been over there. He's seen what they're doing. So that'll be the big thing as we're moving forward to work on this National Defense Authorization Act. I don't want to take up too much time of the good senator here, but appreciate the chance to come to Guyman. I've got a pocket full of cards. Holler at me anytime. The more we know, I can get back to the senator. We want to know how things that are passed in D.C. or even in some local issues, how they affect you, so we know what's going on and can be helpful to you guys. So appreciate the chance to come out. Be glad to visit with you guys afterwards. Thank you.
Your turn.
My turn. Told Jada I thought I'd just sit down, and she goes, "No, you won't. You'll say that, and then you'll stand up." This week was deadline week. 4 weeks in, so deadline to get the Senate bills out of committee. One thing about this session, my first 3 years, I'm starting my 5th year, but my first 3 years we had massive holes in the budget. The first year I was there, it was $611 million hole in the budget. The following year, $1.3 billion hole in the budget, and then $868 million hole in the budget. It hasn't been a whole lot of fun down there. It's you can imagine the stress levels, the tension, the building. I know you've heard me say this before. That building's alive, and it reflects the attitudes within the building. So I know the year we were $1.3 billion hole. Walking in the start of session, you could feel the dread, you could feel the gloom, you could feel the tension. This year's different. This year, you feel hope, you feel excitement. People's asked me, how's it going? How's it going? I said, man, it's crazy busy. It's just busy, busy, busy. As busy as my first year. And Kenton can tell you that first year they keep you running pretty hard. But we've got optimism. We've got, it's a totally different feeling, and that's good. I mean, we've got a new governor that is. I'm really happy with the direction he's wanting to take the state. I think he's got some good ideas if we can come together on them. But I think we're getting this train turned around. I do want to give Ryan a shout out. Through last year, I can't remember when it was, when I called you on the fuel trailers. So the feds have a rule, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Leon, I think I talked about it last time, the 119 gallons, but Ryan, I called him to see, what he knew about it. He got right back with me, and Ryan is very good at getting right back with me. There's some that doesn't. Some I'm still waiting on that phone call. Ryan's not one of those, and I did want to give you a shout out. But so I've got a bill that will grant an exemption from 600 to 999 gallons. So we should be covered on our farmers hauling fuel out to the tractors and to their fields, their combines. That's the big one. Some of the other bills I have that got through, this year I thought I'd filed 50 bills, and you get that many, you kind of forget. And yesterday I was talking with my EA. She goes, "No, you filed 60 bills." So I'm not going to do that again. That may be why I was so busy the first part of the session. Out of those, about 15 made it through the process. Granted, I guess if I was sitting where you're sitting, I'd think, well, okay, he must have had 45. That was pretty damn stupid bills. No, some of the legislation that I run, sometimes not even intending for it to go very far, I'll file legislation to start a conversation. I'll file legislation to get an agency to kind of perk their ears up and start paying attention. I'm sure you've heard my speeches on agency and agency accountability. Oklahoma brings in $24 billion in revenue to the state. The legislature gets to appropriate 7. That's $17 billion that goes straight off the top to these agencies. You know, and if you get to the federal side of it, the Congress has the purse strings, and they can kind of keep people in line with the purse strings. In Oklahoma, the agencies get it straight off the top. You hear them complaining, about the legislature not funding them enough, but 2/3 of the money that revenue comes into the state, your tax money goes straight to them. It doesn't come through us. So I'll have to follow a bill to kind of, if I have an agency that we have a problem with, and they're not returning my phone calls, and they're not dealing with the issues that we have, sometimes I have to file legislation to kind of get them to pay attention. And when I make a phone call, it's not because Casey Murdoch is upset with them, it's because I have received phone calls from constituents with issues with the agency, and they're not addressing these issues. I say this all the time, I work for you guys. And in my opinion, my job description is not writing legislations and voting on bills. The main part of my job description is representing you and being your representative in between you and an agency. If you have problems with an agency, I help facilitate and fix those problems. I do that way more than I spend more time doing that than I spend writing bills and voting on bills. It's just dealing with constituent requests. And so what makes that phone call from me to an agency work is because I can file a bill and fix it. And the agency heads do not want you filing legislation to fix their problems. They'll find another way. So anyway, so I've got 15. This is my third eggs and issues in the last 3 weeks. So I'm trying to.
I was like, no, it's not.
Oh, yeah, yes, it is. So I'm trying to think what I've told other people. I don't want to repeat myself with you guys. I want to hit on new information. But the Senate, I know I didn't talk about this because we couldn't talk about it until we had the big press release. The Senate Republican caucus had voted on, we put out an agenda of what we wanted to accomplish this year, our goals on what we wanted to accomplish this year. And I guess previously in the Senate, they kind of just shotgunned it out there. Their agenda was fix everything. Their agenda was address everything. And we wanted to narrow that down, and instead of doing a shotgun blast and then going out there and drawing your targets, we wanted to put our target out there, and this is what we're going to accomplish. And the first one is LOFT. It's Legislative Office of Fiscal Transparency. 3 years ago I ran the audit bill that would audit the top 20 agencies. This gets it a little tighter, and this is an office that's within the legislature that will bring in budget numbers that we can budget off of. I can tell you back to these agencies, I don't trust them. We've got to be looking at them all the time. They will come and give us their budget numbers, give us their numbers that they need, and they basically lied to us. They give us the wrong numbers, and you can imagine if you're trying to work on a budget and you don't have the right numbers to work off of, you wind up with budget years like we've had. So this office will go out, gather the numbers, they will dig down and find the true numbers, and it should help us budget and be more efficient with your tax dollars. Also, you would have an open access to all agency data and their budget. There will be a website. Transparency. You need to know how these agencies are spending your money. And it should be fairly easy for you to look and see how much money is going to agency X. Where are they spending that money? It's going to be overseen by a bipartisan committee of House and Senate members. And then the reports that this part of the legislature puts out will be available to the public. So you can see their reports on what they found. Had a lot of questions after the constitutional carry bill passed and the governor signed it. Had several phone calls. You will still need, if you travel outside the state, if you will still need a CDL. Yeah, if you're driving a truck and you travel outside the state, you will need a CDL. No, if you'll need your concealed carry license. There's, there's, I believe, 16 other states that has constitutional carry. I mean, you'll be fine there. Kansas is one of them. I think you're fine there. Texas is not. So if you go down there, you will need a concealed carry license. You can still get it. I'm just going to read off these notes. No, I'm not. Grab the wrong notes. I have to. CDL notes. That's a different notes. Anyway, I'm not going to look at that. But you will. There is still property rights in this. If a business does not want you to carry into their business onto their property, you can't. You have to abide by that. It's still illegal to carry into schools, courthouses, still basically the same places that you couldn't carry before. If you had a concealed carry, you can't do it now. I had a whole list. I grabbed the wrong paper when I left my office. In my defense, it looked just like this. So, some of the other agenda items we wanted to address was we wanted to protect the investment that we made to education. Last year we put close to $500 million, $500 million investment into education. And I know the end of session last year there was rhetoric that, oh, this is one-time money, this is just a one-time deal. No, it was an investment. It was not a one-time deal, and we wanted part of our agenda that we will protect that investment. It won't be just one-time money. This year we are, the House passed $1,200? $1,200 pay raise for teachers. The Senate feels like we need to get that money to the classroom. So that's going to be a negotiation between the House and the Senate on does the money go to the classroom or does it go to the teachers? And that's going to be a discussion that we have. But the money that we have given to education, we are going to protect that. The third one is giving the governor the power to hire and fire agency heads. Back to accountability. Back to these agency heads has way too much power. You know, and I told you about the off-the-top money. Now, how many people in this room have ever voted for an agency head? Anyone? Have you ever voted for an agency head? Yeah, I haven't either. They're appointed by a board. If I mess up, you guys sending me home. You vote for me. I'm held accountable to you guys. These agency heads aren't held accountable. By letting the governor have the power to hire and fire these agency heads, now the buck will stop at his office. I've seen in the 4 years that I have been at the Capitol, I have seen plausible deniability out the wazoo. It's well, that's not my job. Well, it's, you know, I call the agency, but they're just not doing anything. We need accountability. We need, the buck stops here. And the governor says he wants the buck to stop at his office. When he gets this, you know, sometimes you get what you ask for, and you just get enough rope to hang yourself. He's biting off a big chunk, especially his first term. Because if we give him this power and these agencies continue to run amok, he's got the power to change it. He's going to be held accountable. The buck's going to stop right there with the governor. But I think we need accountability. And he did hire a chief operating officer. I had breakfast with him 2 weeks ago. This chief operating officer, there's several states that has this. But his main job is to make sure that this agency money is getting to where it needs to be. That these agencies, he's going to run this state like a business. He is going to run this state like the constituents, the people, the voters of Oklahoma are the customers. And I have said several times to different agencies, your customer service sucks. Zero customer service. He has changed it around. The COO will make sure that the services are provided in a timely fashion and the money gets where it needs to go to provide the services to the people of Oklahoma. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I can tell you on the CDL issue that we have in Woodward, and the wait time, I have said to Department of Public Safety several times that you need to work on your customer service. And we do. And I just see lots of things changing in the good way with the new governor. I'm gonna take questions. I could stand up here and talk all day, and if you don't believe me, ask Ryan. I've done it at other Eggs and Issues. But I'm gonna open it up. I know Ken needs to get to another deal, so I'll open it up for questions.
I do want to let you know really quickly that we do have a couple of gentlemen sitting in the hallway. We didn't ban them. They're actually out there taking, if you'd like to register to vote, they are there to help you get that done. You won't be able to participate in Tuesday's election, but you will be able to vote in the April election. And I don't remember the date, so somebody help me out. The 2nd? Okay, so April the 2nd, if you need to register to vote, you can do it here, or you can stop by the election board office. It's just right next to the courthouse, and you can walk in there and they can help you register to vote as well. Okay, so who's first? All these hands and none of them are up. Oh, wait, you missed the rules. Tell us who you are.
Jason Ebb with PTCI. I've already seen some information about a bill that I can't even remember what they call it. I'm going to say Antelope Bill that had to do, and there's some opposition to, that it may affect bow hunters and things like that. Could you explain kind of what that's about and what the opposition might be saying as well?
Am I on? I meant, Jason, I meant to touch on that. I didn't have, and I want Casey to follow up anything I missed. He briefly touched on that with agencies, how they do things. We both filed Antelope Bills, and we both have the Department of Wildlife in our back pocket. They do not want any kind of legislative activity regarding more tags issued to antelope hunters. My bill was called the Antelope Hunt Enhancement Act. I was going to increase the antelope numbers. The landowner tags, we have 2 hunts of antelope. Landowner tags are issued and state tags are issued. And I wanted to double both from last year, and they found that totally unacceptable. We kind of have a strategy going right now. Casey's going to go ahead and run his bill. They've agreed to increasing landowner tags for this year. We'll probably go, are we going to go ahead and run that bill just to make sure they do that? Or did you pull yours?
No, mine's still alive.
His is still alive. We held mine over. We've kind of developed a coalition and a friendship with some of the people in the Wildlife Committee. If they don't do what they say they'll do, we're going to run my bill next year, so it didn't get killed. Jason, are you an antelope hunter?
No.
The people in Cimarron County and Western Texas County want less antelope. Wildlife Department does not. It seems like there's an underlying tone or current. They're wanting to increase antelope populations. Our people do not. And I think Casey and I are in agreement. We're elected officials. We want to do what the people want to do. We want to protect the antelope herd, but we're not leaning towards doing what the Wildlife Department wants to do. So we're at odds right now with the Wildlife Department. We're actively working on it. I don't know where it'll go. I think our strategy, it looks pretty good right now, and I'll tell you why. Just Wednesday, we had the Wildlife Committee meeting. Another gentleman on that committee wanted to extend deer hunting season maybe 7 days, and they gobbled him up. They ate his lunch. He almost got it passed. It was a very reasonable request, but it went down 6-7, Casey. He didn't even get that extended deer hunt out of committee. So, man, if you run any kind of wildlife bill in Wildlife Committee, you are in a fight. So that's where we are on that, Jason. We'd love to get more antelope tags out there, and we're trying.
So, I have not heard any pushback from bow hunters. What are you?
Yeah, they actually.
On my bill.
Sorry, apparently I have to hold this when I talk.
Yes, you do.
But
you do.
well, it was something that I'd seen from a group that said it was like Oklahoma bow hunters or something like that on social media that were saying that your bill was looking that it would be restricting to that. You can't
believe everything you read on Facebook.
Well, I didn't. I saw something. I'm asking a question about.
You're fine.
That's what I'm doing.
So back to, like Ken said, it's to get these agencies in line. Like I said, when I file a bill, it's to start a conversation. The legislation I filed this year, dealing with wildlife, was a huge stick. That was to bring them to the table, to get them to the table and negotiate and work a deal that's best for my constituents, Kenton's constituents, that will deal with the issues that we have. I've been working on this antelope deal for 4 years, and I've been a nice guy for 4 years, and they kept pushing me off and pushing me off. And this year I decided I'm going to bring them to the table, and I did. I've got a lot of people, their ears are perked up. I think probably over half the bills that I filed dealing with wildlife, I've already laid over because they have come to the table and we're negotiating. Now I'm keeping my antelope bill alive. Ken's is going to have his still sitting out there to make sure they follow through. I'm meeting with J.D. Strong, who is the director of wildlife, in my office Monday morning to see where we're at on making a deal. Now back to the antelope. So in the 4 years that I've been there, they said, well, the numbers aren't there. The numbers aren't there. Folks, I live in Cimarron County. I drive out there every week. I go clear across the county and look at everything. We've got plenty of antelope. And they kept telling me, well, the numbers aren't there. And I was like, no, that can't be. I mean, in 15, I think that was the best year for antelope because a herd of 300 crossed the road in front of me. I had to stop, and every one of them had a set of twins. They've done very well, and I just couldn't believe it. And this year they came back and said, well, you know, we've only got about, was it 1,200 or
12 or 1,300.
12 or 1,300 antelope is all we have, and I'm like, that can't be right. And so Kent and I talked, and Kent looked into it, I looked into it, so I decided, or we decided that let's look at the counties that surrounds the Panhandle. You know, the Panhandle's 34 miles wide. Let's look what they have in Texas, let's look what they have in Colorado and New Mexico. In their counts, Union County, New Mexico, 30,000 antelope. Baca County, Colorado, 14,000, excuse me, Baca County, Colorado, has 14,000 antelope. Texas, Texas does it different. They've got regions, but about 5,000. And they're saying we have 1,200 here. Now Trump hasn't got here yet. We don't have a wall stopping these antelope from coming this way. They do migrate back and forth. And the issue that's really got people upset, I know in Cimarron County, and I'm sure here in the western part of Texas County, is September and October is when they are, the biggest numbers are here in our area. Well, what happens September, October, Leon? What are you doing in September and October?
Harvesting.
Well, you're also planting wheat, aren't you? And that wheat's just coming up, and it's not rooted down. And when you have a herd of 100 antelope goes through your wheat field, and they pull that wheat up by the root, that's going to affect your yield. That's going to affect your stand of wheat. They're hurting us, and so I think we've got a plan with the Department of Wildlife to address that, to get double the number of tags that landowners get, and that's where we're going to start. We're going to see what that does, if that doesn't help. But I can tell you, it took putting out these big sticks out there to get them to the table, because they was not coming to the table. They were not going to discuss anything. So that's, I don't think it'll affect the bow hunters. What my bill said, I amended it, and what my bill says is basically do what Texas is doing, and they let the landowner decide how to manage the antelope. And then if they see the number being depleted, they'll pull that back, but they're letting the landowner decide how to handle the antelope.
I had briefly heard, I think on the radio, oh, sorry. My name's Geraldine Sanchez. I'm with Leadership Guyman. I briefly heard on the radio, I believe, that there was something that was going to come up where the landowners had the option of selling their tags to a second party. Is that part of what you guys are going to be doing too?
They can do that now.
Oh, they can do that now?
Yeah,
okay.
they can do that now. They can sell them or give them away.
Okay.
So I'll let you take this one.
Hi, I have a question for the Senator's representative. My name is Vonda Wilkins, and as the chairperson of the Armed Services Committee, you said Senator Inhofe has concerns about the diversion of funds from military construction projects, which directly impact the quality of life of our armed service people. So I was glad to hear that. I'm wondering if the Senator also has concerns about the constitutional implications of the national emergency proclamation as far as separation of powers and Congress being the entity to hold the purse strings?
Sure. No, that's a good question. I appreciate that. I appreciate you asking a question. I was over here. I was waiting for these guys because nobody ever asked me anything. So thank you. But no, he does, and it's kind of a, I don't know if sticky area, whatever you want to call it, because this is a bit of a new thing. And if you got the Democrats in the House that are definitely opposed to it, you've got the Republicans in the Senate that they're trying to decide what to do. So it's definitely an issue. It's something he's considering. It kind of puts him in a tough spot because, again, he's all for border security, but he doesn't want those funds to go away from our military projects. So it's kind of a tough spot to be in. We'll see where it goes. I don't know if I really answered your question, but it is something he's considering and looking at. You bet. So.
Well, I mean, I appreciated you saying that, but in addition, is he concerned about allowing the president the seeming new power of purse string?
I don't know if I'd say it's a new power, because we've had other presidents declare national emergencies. We've never really seen one do it for the United States, so that's what we're looking at to see if it really is a breach of the Constitution, and the senator would not be for that, I can tell you right now. He's very much, he ran a bill trying to get more Constitution, it's the Civics Act, trying to get more Constitution education in our public schools. So he's very much in support of the Constitution, what it says, and how folks should follow that. So, yeah.
I don't want everybody to freak out. The Leadership Guyman class has a very busy day, so they're headed off to Guyman High School, actually. They're going to start their education session today. So they're not like leaving because Ryan was talking. They're leaving because they want to graduate from Leadership Guyman. So, okay, yes.
Yes, Casey Rochoff. On the process for the governor might be able to appoint the agency heads, how does that process work, or will it be a vote that goes up between?
So I'm fortunate enough to be in leadership in the Senate, and it's not as easy as it sounds, because you know the Senate is behind this proposal. I mean, we're pushing this. The House, not so much. We're in negotiations on how this is going to look. I really don't know how to explain it, because I mean we had a leadership meeting this week, and we've gotten way off in the weeds in how this language is going to look, how it's going to all come down. And I can tell you on the House, they want impeachment power. They want a little power to have the ability to pull up the reins on an agency head. So, you know, the governor has the power to hire and fire, but the House is wanting some impeachment powers that, you know, if we have a rogue governor and is getting out of line, and his agencies are getting out of line, that the House can pull the reins up. We're still in negotiations with the House on that. On what the language and how it's going to work. I know. I think the pro tem got a bill out of committee Wednesday or Thursday with what we want. But I can tell you that bill's moving, but the negotiations are still happening on how we're going to put this together.
Okay. The agency's budgets, are they approved or disapproved by the governor? Or?
No, the House.
The House does have it. Okay.
Well, so the House has their budget. The governor has his budget, but the actual budget, the money allocated to agencies comes out of the House, and the Senate votes on it, and the governor will either veto it or sign it, but the governor will have his budget, but that's just kind of a suggestion. The official state budget will come out of the House.
Okay.
Maybe just to follow up on Casey's question. The governor's really pushing this, and it could ultimately look like a three-legged stool. Governor, House, and Senate. Kind of checks and balances type affair. And Casey's right, it's in negotiations. That hasn't been settled. So I think they're close. I mean, we're hearing good things on our side. So if everybody at the table can agree, the concept is very sound. That kind of structure, that kind of arrangement. I I think we'll get there. I just don't know when.
We're not as close as you think.
Oh,
We've gotten, as you can imagine, why government moves so slowly is we've gotten way off in the weeds in the negotiation. And in leadership this week, I said, man, what's going on? It sounds like we're trying to make almost got the deal on the horse, and now we're arguing on what color the halter is going to be that the horse comes in. I'm like, wow. How do we get way over here? So we're still in negotiations.
well, get us reined back in.
I'm going to.
Casey Lloyd Looper from Goodrow, would you expound on Bill 13 for me, please?
Bill 13. Senate Bill 13.
Yes.
Can you kind of tell me what that one's about?
Well, if my daughter gets raped and she has an abortion, she gets sent to jail.
Oh, SB 13. Okay, sorry. I should have known what that is. That bill's not going anywhere. Leadership's not going to hear that one. So the pro tem has a bill, and we've got 1,200 bills, I believe. So I don't know all the numbers to what every number does, but the pro tem has a bill out there on abortion that just says if Roe versus Wade ever gets repealed, the laws that we have on the books in Oklahoma goes into effect. But SB 13 is not. It did not go anywhere. It had to be heard this week to get out of committee, and it didn't.
Thank you.
Hi, Vonda Wilkins again. Senator Murdoch, I heard that you were on the Judiciary Committee, and there was a vote this week to allow for redistricting for the Supreme Court for Oklahoma, and it's my understanding you voted in favor of that. Could you tell us about that?
About voting in favor of it?
Yes, sir.
That was a day that I should have just stayed in bed. I can say that I was not happy with that vote, and I will be changing that vote on the floor.
It's my understanding that bill would allow the redistricting so that each district touches on Oklahoma City or Tulsa, so that rural could be out of
Well, what it does
representation.
is it aligns our Supreme Court with the congressional districts, with 4 at-large positions, is how that works.
And so the districts that would be redistricted would touch on all the urban areas, is that correct?
Right, you'll have 5 congressional districts, and I believe every congressional, no, you got on the eastern side of this. Well, you said Oklahoma City or Tulsa?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the 5, and then you have 4 out large that you could possibly get out into other parts of Oklahoma.
Yeah, as a member of the bar, we were concerned about the rural areas being without representation.
Any more questions? Okay, well, I think it's about time that you're late for work. Go make some money and spend it locally. And I really would like to thank PTCI once again for sponsoring today's session. I appreciate everything that they do for us, and videoing as well. Our next session is in April. I forgot the date, but it's the first Friday in April, so if you have your calendar out, it's that one. And we will see you then. So thank you for coming, and we appreciate everyone's attendance. Thank you.